Liz Cheney, she is describing this threat by the orange bastard to imprison her, along with others on the J6 committee who investigated his instigation, organization, and his supporters' attack on the U.S. Capitol. She's describing it, and rightly so, because that's what it is, quote, an assault on the rule of law and the foundations of our republic, end quote. Now, she is responding to comments that the orange bastard made during this interview on Meet the Press on Sunday. And in the interview, he said members of the House committee investigating the attack, quote, should go to jail. You bastard. But he did add, and this is what a mob boss always does, this is the way they talk. He said he would not direct the Attorney General or FBI, whoever he appoints during his second presidency, to pursue the matter. No, all a mob boss has to do is put it out there. Hey, you know that guy over in Jersey? You know the one? Yeah, him. Listen, I hope he doesn't have an accident, like maybe his brakes fail, right? Shit happens. That's what Trump is doing. And during that interview with Kristen Welker, this orange bastard said, quote, Cheney did something that's inexcusable, along with Benny Thompson and the people on the committee of political thugs and, creeps. This filthy fucker is calling his betters, people who in their little fingers have more integrity than this prick has in his entire body. He's calling them creeps. Anyway, then he went on, Trump did, with his lies and bullshit. I mean, he can't help himself. He's a pathological liar, in addition to being just a brain-dead fuckwad. But he added this, quote, they deleted and destroyed all the evidence. For what they did, honestly, they should go to jail, end quote. Well, in a statement that had her response that was obtained by the New York Times, Cheney said Trump had, quote, lied about the J6 committee. There was no conceivably appropriate factual or constitutional basis to go after that panel's members, end quote. Liz Cheney is going at this very calmly, like you would with a fucking 2-year-old who is all jacked up on sugar or something. She added this, quote, there's no conceivably appropriate factual or constitutional basis for what Donald Trump is suggesting. That is a Justice Department investigation of the work of a congressional committee. And any lawyer who attempts to pursue that course would quickly find themselves engaged in sanctionable conduct, end quote. And she added that Trump, quote, attempted to overturn the 2020 presidential election that he lost to Joe Biden so that he could remain in the Oval Office by mobilizing an angry mob. She added, quote, this was the worst breach of our Constitution by any president in our nation's history. Donald Trump's suggestion that members of Congress who later investigated his illegal and unconstitutional actions should be jailed is a continuation of his assault on the rule of law and the foundations of our republic, end quote. Well, there is nothing surprising in what the orange bastard said. He's just, well, you know what he is. Now, this exchange or the response from Liz Cheney comes as President Biden is considering offering sweeping pardons to those who could become targets of this orange fucker's promised retribution against his political enemies. The only problem with that, I like I mentioned during the weekend podcast, I doubt seriously if any of the people that Trump is threatening would accept a pardon, because a pardon brings with it, whether we like this or not, it brings with it an admission of guilt. I mean, that's what, by definition, that's what a pardon is. You're going to be pardoned for the crimes you committed. And I don't think Adam Kinzinger or Benny Thompson or Liz Cheney or any member, Adam Schiff, any member of the J6 committee is going to accept a pardon. They did nothing except try to enforce the law. And in Trump's addled, fucked up brain, that is the worst crime you can commit against him, because he does not subscribe to the rule of law. He is, in the most gross, ugly, smelliest sense, he's an outlaw. And he's proud of it. And his brain-dead MAGA jerk-offs are proud of it, too. Now, efforts to prosecute Trump, of course, have been abandoned now that he is the president-elect. But Cheney said material collected by special counsel Jack Smith should be preserved. Oh, hell yes. And, quote, Cheney says, quote, as much of that information as possible should be disclosed in a special counsel's upcoming report, end quote. I thoroughly agree. But can you imagine, I hate to fall back on, but what about the children? But seriously, can you imagine any kids, young people, I don't mean toddlers, I mean young people, say from 12 years on up, who had occasion to listen to what Trump has been saying and realizing that this filthy pig bastard is the next president of the United States, and he's talking about jailing people who followed the law, who followed the Constitution. And the orange bastard standing up there or sitting on his large ass across from Kristen Welker, who, by the way, really pissed me off in her refusal to follow up when he sat there and just dribbled lie after lie after lie out of his little tiny mouth. But kids who watched that, parts of it, clips of it, heard about it, whatever, and realize, well, they don't realize anything. They're kids. But when they hear Donald Trump, the next president, saying these people should be jailed because they violated laws, and there's no one there to say to the kids that's a fucking lie. Trump is the violator. Hopefully, parents will educate their children. I don't know about school teachers. I would imagine that some teachers right now, if not most teachers, are fucking terrified of this beast and his allies are these bloody Christian fuckers who are determined to destroy public education and replace it with this crazy mythological horse crap that they turned into a religion. Adam Kinzinger, he was also one of the targets. He wrote something on Substack. Let me just share it with you, okay? This is Adam Kinzinger writing, Donald Trump's latest threat to jail members of the January 6th committee is nothing more than the desperate howl of a man who knows history will regard him with shame. Let me be clear. We did nothing wrong. The January 6th committee's work was driven by facts, the Constitution, and the pursuit of accountability, principles that are foreign to Trump. If Donald wants to pursue this vindictive fantasy, I say bring it on. I'm not intimidated by a man whose actions on January 6th showed a cowardly disregard for democracy and the rule of law, a man too frightened to serve in the military, and a man who requires a strong man like Putin to feel secure. While his supporters were attacking the Capitol, Trump sat in the White House watching in glee as law enforcement and elected officials scrambled to protect our republic. The truth we exposed through that committee's work, the planning, lies, and dereliction of duty, cannot be erased by threats of political theater. Our hearings laid bare the reality. This was no spontaneous protest. It was an assault on the foundations of our democracy, encouraged and abetted by the former president himself. Donald, go ahead and try to rewrite history. Use your platform to deflect blame, point fingers, and play the victim. But the evidence speaks louder than your words. History will remember the January 6th committee as defenders of democracy and you as a man who betrayed it. The truth has been laid bare. The American people have seen the evidence, and no kangaroo court or hollow threats will change that. You may fool some of the people some of the time, but the tide is turning. It just may take a bit. I'm confident that the name Trump will be a stain on our history, and my son will be proud of what I did. So, bring it on. We aren't afraid of the truth, but I suspect you are. All right. Adam Kinzinger. That was his statement that he placed on Substack. His reaction to this filthy son of a bitch, Donald Trump, threatening to arrest, jail members of the J6 committee. But this is what a dictator does, and now has it firmly in his reptilian brain that he has been given a mandate to rule the country, and the Supreme Court has given him permission to do any fucking thing he wants to and never suffer any consequences for it. So in Trump's reptilian brain, yeah, all the power is in his tiny little hands, and by God, he's going to use it in the worst way that a dictator can use power, as an instrument of threats, intimidation, fear, and eventually violence. This is what Trump's talking about. This is what Trump's about. And this cadre of half-humans who are cluster around him, like that fucking Stephen Miller, God, that guy is gruesome to look at. These people are willing to abet him in all the shit that he's got planned, and they will. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.